So in the United States, we have the Electoral College. If you're here, we are assuming you already know how it works. I won't be covering that because how the Electoral College works is something you should already know, and it's not questioned. What is debated, though, is why we have the Electoral College, and many people don't seem to know the right answer. Answers vary between two common arguments, and people get into pretty heated debates over this. But only one side can be correct, right? Well, that's not really the case here. The two reasons given for why we have the Electoral College are one, because we have to give the smaller states an equal voice. That way the president is not selected by just a few states with the largest populations. The other reason is we have the Electoral College to prevent an unqualified individual from taking office and becoming president. The electors are there to ensure that does not happen. So which of these is the real reason why we have the Electoral College? Well, both. Kind of. Both of these are reasons for the Electoral College, but they actually answer two very different questions. Those being why the Electoral College was created in the first place, and why do we still keep it? To answer the first question, we have to go back to why the Electoral College was created. The framework and language for the Electoral College was created by none other than Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton outlined some of this in his Federalist Papers, the core of which stated, quote, "The process of an election affords a moral certainty that the office of president will never fall to the lot of any man who is not in an eminent degree endowed with the requisite qualifications," which, in modern English, just means we can't elect someone who's not properly qualified to run a country. At the time, the fear of Hamilton and most of the other founding fathers was that the people could either be tricked into voting for someone who isn't qualified by appealing to their emotions, or the people may not be educated enough to make a proper choice. While this sounds kinda condescending to us, it was a very valid concern at the time, and it kinda still is. So Alexander Hamilton and the founders decided at the Constitutional Convention that the Electoral College would be put in place, and it would be made up of electors of, quote, "men most capable of analyzing the qualities in order to make sure the most qualified and best candidate is actually chosen." What this does is essentially make the electors in the Electoral College the safeguard of the presidency. If the people voted for someone who was unqualified, the electors would say no and choose someone who was qualified. Interestingly enough, when the Electoral College was first created, it wasn't possible for there to be a tie, as it was an odd number of votes, and it was not possible to win the Electoral College but lose the popular vote like what just happened in the 2016 race. Now that could have happened if the electors changed their vote, but it couldn't have happened on its own. Now this obviously all changed as the country expanded. We added more states, the population grew, representatives and senators were added, and we come out to the Electoral College numbers that we have today. So now that you know why the Electoral College was created, you know the fact that it was not intended to give the smaller states a larger voice. So why is this even an argument of it existing? Well, it's a fairly simple and understandable mistake people make. While the Electoral College was not created to give the smaller states a larger voice, that's what it's kind of evolved into, and that's one of the main arguments for keeping the Electoral College since elections have changed so much. So technically, this answer to why we have the Electoral College isn't wrong, it's just an answer to a very different question, and that question is, why do we still have the Electoral College? And it's a valid answer. Let's say we didn't have the Electoral College anymore. Due to the way campaigning has evolved in the modern day, candidates would only have to campaign in a few states to win the popular vote, since the majority of the population lies within a few states. This would result in the ignoring of the people in smaller states, and since we are a nation of states, not just one state made up of all the people, we do need to take those states into account. Now, I'm not saying we should or shouldn't keep the Electoral College. What I am saying is why it's a valid argument. The argument of not keeping the Electoral College is equally as valid, because while we are a nation of states, we're made up of people, and the foundation of a democracy is that everyone has an equal vote. This is the one person, one vote concept, which is the core of every democracy. The Electoral College eliminates that core of democracy. But then again, America is not technically a democracy in the first place, but that's a completely different issue. I'm not here to convince you to believe what I believe, I'm just here to give you the facts. That way you can go out there and make up your own mind on what you believe. So now that you know the facts, does the original intent of the Electoral College mean we need to change it to better suit that original intent? Or do you believe we do need to give those smaller states a larger voice so they're not left out, and keep the Electoral College the way it is now? Let me know below, and if there's something I didn't mention in this video that you would like to know, ask it below and I'll see if I can answer. Anyways, I'm the Poli Sci Guy, and I will see you next time.